Here are the top stories for today, January 5, 2022. President Rodrigo Duterte is not mincing his words against unvaccinated persons. Stay at home or face jail time as authorities scramble to prevent infections from spiraling out of control. The hotel in the mess involving a quarantine evader gets the axe from the tourism department. She, along with other persons involved, are now facing charges for breaching protocols. The country's inflation slows to 3.6% in December, primarily driven by the slow increase in prices of food during the holiday season. And the search for new lawyers will push through with a revised coverage on January 23 and 25, even as the country is still reeling from the pandemic and the effects of Typhoon Odette. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Those who refuse to get vaccinated against COVID-19 should just stay home or risk getting jailed and arrested. This was announced by President Rodrigo Duterte during his Talk to the People address, stressing that unvaccinated individuals are at higher risk of contracting severe illness, complications, and even death. The president made this statement after Metro Manila mayors agreed to pass local ordinances that will restrict the movement and activities of unvaccinated people amid a steep increase of infections in the region.
Yung hindi magpabakuna at nalaman ng mga barangay captain, sabihin na lang nila, huwag kang lumabas. At kung malabas ka, you'll be escorted. If you force the issue, I said, because the barangay captain is a person in authority, he can place you under arrest and dalhin ka sa stasyon. Puno na yung hospital ngayon by this time. The contamination is ever growing very fast. Ang defense lang natin, defense that's available to you is really the vaccine that you got earlier.
Meanwhile, Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara said the Metro Manila Council must issue ordinances to enforce the proposed restrictions against unvaccinated individuals. He said local legislative councils exercise police power delegated onto them by the local government code, which was enacted by Congress. The delegated police power authorizes them to pass such ordinances as they shall deem to be for the welfare of their constituents. President Rodrigo Duterte appealed to the Roman Catholic Church to suspend the physical masses, including the traditional Traslacion procession and Mass for the Black Nazarene. With millions of devotees who are expected to flock during the Feast of the Black Nazarene, President Duterte said the government cannot just be complacent about the transmission of the disease.
Kung nakinig ang Roman Catholic Church, I am now appealing to you to forgo and cancel all physical gatherings, including the procession and the celebration of Mass sa church. Because marami yan sila. There are millions of devotees there. And you cannot just be complacent about the transmission of the disease. Sana maintindihan ako ng Roman Catholic that all gatherings are not allowed.
President Duterte says he is hoping that the Catholic Church would understand his decision. The traditional Traslacion is usually held every January 9. It involves the procession of the Black Nazarene from Quirino Grandstand in Luneta to Quezon Boulevard, Manila.
Never mind about power of government. This is just an appeal to the hierarchy of the church to look at it on a broader understanding that it would really be a super spreader.
Meanwhile, the replica of the Black Nazarene will be brought to the Minor Basilica of the Immaculate Conception, popularly known as Manila Cathedral in Intramuros, Manila, as part of the commemoration of the Feast of the Black Nazarene. The Manila Cathedral encouraged those who will visit the image to follow the basic health protocols to make the activity smooth and safe. President Rodrigo Duterte ordered the deployment of at least 2 police officers in hotel quarantine facilities. This is to prevent persons from skipping their mandatory isolation period. The president explains that hotel owners do not have the authority or power to stop people under quarantine from breaching protocols. He said it only makes sense to assign police officers. Meanwhile, Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara cited Republic Act No. 11332, or the Mandatory Reporting of Notifiable Diseases and Health Events of Public Concern Act. He said persons or entities who violate the law may be penalized with a fine, imprisonment, or both.
This is being done in order to prevent those who may attempt to violate the quarantine regulations that have been put in place to protect our population from COVID.
The Department of Tourism, or DOT, has suspended the accreditation of Berjaya Makati Hotel for its failure to stop a guest from breaking quarantine rules. The DOT also revoked its permit as a multiple-use hotel. The case stemmed from the actions of returning Filipino Gwyneth Chua, who was seen in Poblacion, Makati City when she was supposed to be in the hotel undergoing quarantine. Chua underwent a swab test on December 26, and her result came out positive the next day. Neither the hotel, security personnel, nor the front lobby called her attention, and neither was there any effort to report the incident to the Bureau of Quarantine even after her return 3 days later. The DOT said Berjaya's statements and public apology were an admission of not just the facts of the incident, but as well as their lapses in their responsibility as an accredited establishment. Meanwhile, Chua is facing criminal charges for breaching the quarantine protocols. Also included in the charges are her parents Alan and Gemma Chua, her friend Rico Atienza, and Berjaya resident manager Gladiolin Blala, Assistant Resident Manager Den Sabayo, Security Manager Tito Arboleda, Security Officer Esteban Gatbonton, and Front Desk Staff Hannah Araneta. The CIDG, however, did not find sufficient evidence to charge Chua's close contacts, but they were encouraged to also sue her, especially those whom she allegedly infected at the party. Dr. Edsel Salvania of the DOH Technical Advisory Group clarifies the rumor that the reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction test, or RT-PCR, is no longer valid. He said the talk started to circulate after the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, retire the old RT-PCR test.
This thing that's going around po na medyo nako-confuse kasi yung CDC daw nag-withdraw ng RT-PCR, and they're saying that the RT-PCRs are no longer valid. This is fake news po, Mr. President. The only reason they're removing it is because they have better tests na po, and they have other tests that they want to focus on. Yung old test po nila is really just for COVID, and it does not become positive if there is the flu. Yun lang po kasi yung confusion point doon. Hindi po totoo that the influenza will give you a positive COVID test. That is fake news po. So all the RT-PCR tests remain valid, and there is no truth to the rumor that influenza will cause a positive COVID test po.
The Department of Trade and Industry is pushing for making COVID-19 self-test kits available in drugstores. DTI has been pushing for this recommendation since October last year so that people can voluntarily screen themselves for COVID-19 at the comfort of their homes. DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez says it is time to adjust the protocol by encouraging the use of COVID-19 self-test kits to prevent transmission. The self-test kits, which are also widely used in the United States, Canada, Europe, Singapore, and Hong Kong, are said to be effectively manage the transmission of COVID-19. The Food and Drug Administration has earlier approved the use of antigen self-test kits. Baguio City is among the first to signify its intent to pilot COVID-19 test kits to speed up the detection and management of COVID-19 cases in their area. Still ahead, tighten measures back, LGUs and law enforcers team up to conduct spot checks for vaccination cards. And the Philippines' inflation slows to 3.6% in December amid a sluggish increase in food prices. Details ahead, keep it here on the PNA Newsroom. A seafarer who traveled from Africa did not get vaccinated for COVID-19 became Iloilo City's first case of the highly transmissible Omicron variant. The Iloilo City Health Office confirmed today the city's first case of the COVID-19 Omicron variant. The patient is a 46-year-old unvaccinated male seafarer from Arevalo District with travel history in African countries in December 2021. He disembarked at the Kenya port on December 12, 2021 and tested negative in several tests on his way home. However, on December 27, he tested positive for COVID-19 through the RT-PCR test conducted by the Iloilo City USWAG Molecular Laboratory. The positive case, who is currently being isolated at the city quarantine facility, is asymptomatic. Meanwhile, Bacolod City Mayor Evelio Leonarda has ordered heightened border controls after the city reported a case of Omicron variant involving a visiting overseas Filipino worker who arrived on December 31. Leonarda told Bacolodnons that there is no need to be alarmed, but precautionary measures should still be taken. The 38-year-old patient from Mindanao, a cruise ship worker who flew in from Miami, Florida, came to Bacolod to be with his wife, a native of Pampanga. In La Union, authorities reported no Omicron variant yet amid the attendance of some of Gwyneth Chua's close contacts in a charity concert in San Juan Town. Chua is the returning overseas Filipino worker who broke quarantine rules at the Berjaya Makati Hotel on December 22nd, went to a nearby bar the next day and tested positive for COVID-19 4 days later. The Department of Tourism confirmed that one of Chua's two close contacts who attended a benefit concert for the victims of Typhoon Odette at Kermit La Union restaurant on December 29 also tested positive for the virus. Employees of Kermit La Union are already in isolation and will undergo RT-PCR tests. Meanwhile, Baguio City has finalized new rules under Alert Level 2 classification amid the threat of the Omicron variant. Under the new executive order released on Tuesday, the city will implement a 12-hour liquor ban from midnight until noon the following day. The order also provides the imposition of curfew from midnight to 4 a.m. Only 4,000 visitors registered online and issued with quick response travel permit will be accepted in the city per day. Unvaccinated adult tourists will not be accepted in the city. Abra Province will also re-implement stricter border and entry protocols as a precaution against the Omicron variant. This as the Department of Health in Cordillera reported that the province remains to have 0 active cases of the viral infection. Governor Maria Jocelyn Berno said incoming individuals will be required to submit the S-Pass or Safe, Swift, and Smart Passage system for all incoming individuals, whether vaccinated or non-vaccinated. Philippine National Police Chief General Leonardo Carlos was ordered to intensify the deployment of police to public places after the country was again classified as high risk for COVID-19. In a statement, Carlos said the Department of Health or DOH has tasked law enforcers to manage the movement of people based on the guidelines of the Interagency Task Force and local executive orders. He cited the need to keep inter-LGU travel to be free-flowing to avoid traffic congestions, although border checkpoints will only depend on the orders of the local government units. Carlos also sought the public's understanding that heightened protocol policies may be inconvenient, but they have to be followed without exceptions and excuses. Metro Manila and the provinces of Bulacan, Cavite, and Rizal are under the stricter Alert Level 3 until January 15. Meanwhile, aside from heightened protocols, the police, local authorities, and security personnel of business establishments in Metro Manila will soon randomly ask the public for vaccination cards. The Metro Manila Council earlier issued a resolution which bans unvaccinated individuals from going outside their homes except for the procurement of necessary goods and services. Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA Chair Benjamin Abalos Jr. urged the public to always bring identification and their vaccination card whenever they go out in public. He noted that the resolution will only take effect once LGUs draft and implement an ordinance to enforce the new protocol. Once the restrictions are in place, he said, only areas affected by granular lockdowns will be provided with assistance in the form of groceries. The Philippines' headline inflation rate eased to 3.6% in December from 4.2% in November, the lowest monthly inflation rate for 2021. The Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, on Wednesday said the decline was primarily driven by slower food inflation. Vegetable inflation dropped to -10 from -1.8%, while fish inflation decelerated to 7.0% from 7.9%. However, meat inflation slightly increased to 11.3% in December from 10.7% in November. Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua said the government is working to increase local supply to temper inflation in meat, particularly pork. Non-food inflation also decreased to 3.7% in December from 4.1% in November. This was primarily driven by slower transport inflation, which fell to 6.1% from 8.8%, following the decrease in local prices of petroleum products.
Ang dahilan ng pagbagal ng antas ng inflation ditong Disyembre 2021 ay ang mas mabagal na paggalaw ng presyo ng food and non-alcoholic beverages na may 3.1% inflation at 52.8% share sa pagbaba ng pangkalatang inflation rate sa bansa. Ang pangalawang commodity group na nagpakita ng pagbagal ng antas ng inflation nitong Disyembre 2021 ay ang transport na may 6.1% inflation at 37.5% share sa pagbaba ng pangkalatang inflation sa bansa.
The Negros Occidental Police Provincial Office reports it has seized 37 million pesos worth of suspected shabu in the past year. The NOC-PPO said local police seized about 5,400 grams of the illegal substance pegged at 6,800 pesos per gram in various operations. During the period, operatives arrested over 800 suspects for violation of Republic Act 9165 or the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. Police are also monitoring two drug groups, the Bugalon and Virtucio groups, which are now operating in Negros Occidental. 4 other groups were already neutralized. Moving on to business, the Philippine Ports Authority assures that all seaports and offices remain operational despite many of its employees testing positive for COVID-19. PPA General Manager J. Daniel Santiago said those who tested positive among their ranks have been replaced by others who have previously been working from home. On Tuesday, he said 5 more PPA employees have tested positive after taking a COVID-19 antigen test in addition to 40 others who have earlier tested positive. Santiago also said despite the damages left by Typhoon Odette last December, all PPA ports are operational with some facilities undergoing repairs. Cargo operations have resumed even as they experience a shortage on operational vessels. In addition, he said, the PPA is currently prioritizing the transit of relief cargoes and RoRo vessels, as well as other vehicles used in providing relief to areas affected by Odette. He said all terminal charges and passenger terminal fees have also been waived in all PPA ports until January 22, 2022. Meanwhile, the 2 integrated bus terminals serving the North Luzon Expressway and South Luzon Expressway will remain operational unless ordered otherwise by the Interagency Task Force. Transportation Assistant Secretary Goddess Hope Libiran said suspending the operation of the North Luzon Express Terminal and the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, as well as the possible reopening of the in-city bus terminal in Metro Manila, would be detrimental to both vehicular traffic and public health. Earlier, commuter group Pasada appealed for the suspension of the mandatory use of the NLEX due to rising COVID-19 cases. Up next, the poll body says the fate of a party's petition to reopen the COC filing period is now in the hands of its unbank. And the Supreme Court confirms the bar exams will proceed on January 23 and 25. More stories when the PNA Newsroom returns.
Mga kabida, hindi pa rin nawawala ang banta ng COVID-19. Upang masiguro ang kaligtasan ninyo at ng inyong pamilya, hanapin ang safety seal sticker sa inyong pupuntahan. Mapamall man ito, kainan, pasyalan o kahit anong business establishment. Ang safety seal ay tanda ng isang establishmento ay sumusunod sa minimum public health standards ng gobyerno para maiwasan ang pagkalat ng COVID-19. Ating tandaan, bida ang may disiplina. #SafetySeal para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan.
Government agencies and private organizations continue to pour in food and other forms of assistance for regions affected by Typhoon Odette. Marita Moahe has the story.
The Department of Public Works and Highways, along with civic organizations, conducted relief operations in communities affected by Typhoon Odette that hit parts of the Visayas and Mindanao last month. The DPWH distributed relief packs to 1,145 families in Surigao City in relief operations dubbed as Tabangan Takaw Surigao. The National Food Authority also shipped nearly 4,500 bags to replenish their stocks there. Nestle Philippines meanwhile donated more than 1 million pesos worth of goods intended for typhoon survivors. Last month, Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri donated 2,000 sacks of rice and 1,200 pieces of evacuation tents to displaced residents in Iloilo, Bacolod, Cebu, Bohol, Agusan del Sur, and the cities of Butuan and Cagayan de Oro. Meanwhile, the Department of Social Welfare and Development distributed over 78,000 family food packs to cities and towns affected by Typhoon Odette in eastern Visayas in the past 2 weeks. This represents 73% of the projected more than 106,000 population in badly hit communities. The DSWD has been coordinating with other members of the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council to fast-track the distribution of family food packs. In Negros Oriental, the National Housing Authority turned over 27.5 million pesos to the provincial government as initial assistance for people who lost their homes during the onslaught of Typhoon Odette. The recipients of the NHA assistance are Odette victims who were identified by the Provincial Social Welfare and Development Office. Each beneficiary will receive 5,000 pesos as cash assistance. Governor Ruel Degamo thanked the NHA for the assistance that will be distributed to some 5,500 beneficiaries. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muaje.
The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, and Bank is expected to look into the petition filed by the ruling party PDP Laban to reopen the period of filing of certificates of candidacy, or COCs. COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez said the petition filed by the Group of Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi last December 31 will be discussed by the 7-man panel. Jimenez noted that there are a lot of issues and consequences to opening up the COC filing once again. The party called for the reopening of the filing of COCs and not proceed with printing of ballots, citing cases affecting candidates and party lists that are still pending. If refuted, allegations that it is pursuing a delayed or no election scenario and an extension of President Rodrigo Duterte's term. The bar examination will push through on January 23 and 25, despite calls to cancel it due to the pandemic and the destruction caused by Typhoon Odette in December. The Supreme Court announced Tuesday that the bar exam will be held with revised coverage in a shorter period, with examinees taking 4 sets of examinations. For the first time, the exam will be held in multiple sites. Examinees must quarantine starting January 9 or at least 2 weeks before the bar examination. Before the announcement, the bar exam was supposed to be held on January 16, 23, 30, and February 6. The last time the bar exam was held in 2019, a total of 2,103 passed out of 7,685 hopefuls. May Dayan Azores of the University of Santo Tomas Legazpi was the last top-notcher with a grade of 91.05%. In sports, the Philippine Olympic Committee has reiterated its support for Olympic pole vaulter E.J. Obiena. This even after the Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association, or PATAFA, dropped the Asian sensation from the national pool. POC President Abraham Tolentino said on Tuesday they will assure Obiena's participation in the Hanoi Southeast Asian Games and the Guangzhou Asian Games with or without PATAFA's nod. He cited a clause in the International Olympic Committee charter saying that a National Olympic Committee can endorse an athlete on its own. Tolentino believes it is the Philippine Sports Commission's final discretion on whether Obiena would be totally out of the Philippine team this year or not. PATAFA recommended Obiena's removal following an investigation to allegations of unpaid coaching fees to Vitaly Petrov. The association is also readying a staffa charges against Obiena, while a complaint will be made to World Athletics against Petrov. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. President Rodrigo Duterte is not mincing his words against unvaccinated persons. Stay at home or face jail time as authorities scramble to prevent infections from spiraling out of control. The hotel in the mess involving a quarantine evader gets the axe from the tourism department. She, along with other persons involved, are now facing charges for breaching protocols. The country's inflation slows to 3.6% in December, primarily driven by the slow increase in prices of food during the holiday season. And the search for new lawyers will push through with a revised coverage on January 23 and 25, even as the country is still reeling from the pandemic and the effects of Typhoon Odette. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.